Hi, I am Anna Martin and this is the Flex podcast. Just looking for my hand cream because this is a very important part of the podcast. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about trying to ditch that kind of feeling where we're very all or nothing. So if you forever feel like you're starting on a Monday, waiting for that Monday to come so then you can restart everything, but also not completely get through the entire week, then this is for you. So first and foremost, I'm not hating on a Monday. In fact, I love a Monday. I think they're great days to start something on. We usually feel a little bit shit after the weekend. Maybe we've been out quite a lot. We've been eating loads of food that we wouldn't normally. So our motivation can feel a bit higher. And it feels like that kind of clean slate feeling. So Mondays can be great. The issue comes when we manage that first couple of days. We're so good. Maybe we're basically eating practically nothing, haven't been out for a while, get to about 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, and we start sort of feeling a bit whinish. Or maybe it's like, I'm so hungry, I've got to get a takeaway tonight, or whatever the vibe is. Then by just having that one evening where we're kind of in our head going back to the way we were before, we think we've screwed it up. So then we basically jack the entire thing off, go wild for a few days because we're definitely starting the following Monday and we want to make sure that we've eaten everything we want and drunk everything we want before we start properly on the following Monday. So we've gone a bit wild. We get to the next Monday and exactly the same thing happens. Just going round and round in this circle, just continues. So what I try to do with my clients and the things that we begin working on is trying to ditch that all or nothing mindset. If we get to Wednesday and our friends ask us out for dinner and we are gagging for a pizza, we go out for a pizza, we have pizza and a couple of glasses of wine, and then we get up the next day and then carry on with exactly what we had planned to do. We eat food that's like nutritionally dense for us, full of good stuff, makes us feel great. We do the workout we have planned and we carry on. That one Wednesday night has almost no effect on the rest of the week. We just had a really nice time with a friend. We ate something we really fancied. And actually it can keep us going in terms of now we don't feel like we're on a diet. Now we don't feel like we're on this kind of forced exercise regime. And then we get to the weekend and we enjoy ourselves. We have a nice time. But because we haven't had this feeling of being on a wagon, we're no longer going overboard on the weekend. And that is what we're working for. We might go out, and don't get me wrong, I go out and I have a nice time, believe me, but it doesn't have a huge effect on then what I do the next day. So even if I've gone out, so on Monday, it was bank holiday, I was out, we went out in London, we went for late lunch and then we had a few pints and then came back like early. So early enough not to have a hangover the next day, but, you know, it was definitely an extended weekend, to put it that way. So, but the difference was, I guess, I hadn't really been out for the 3 days before that over the bank holiday weekend. I'd done stuff, but I'd driven everywhere. I wasn't really drinking. I did like within my macros kind of the entire time. So on that Monday, I didn't really care. Just had a really nice time, enjoyed it. Got up the next day, went to the gym, trained like normal, did all the normal stuff I did, went back to normal food because I'd done my food shopping. And that's it. I just have like nice memory. It was a really fun day, and actually the rest of the week has just carried on as usual. And that was a Monday, so technically, you know, if Monday's a special day, that really, therefore, should have written off the rest of the week if I had that type of mindset about it. But actually, I just had a nice time and then continued to look after myself a bit better for the rest of the week because, let's be honest, I think I probably did about 6 pints, if I'm honest. That is not the amount of alcohol that I would regularly drink on a daily basis, obviously, and be able to continue working out and doing this job. So we have to have like everything in our heads of actually I can be multiple different types of person at the same time, and none of them mean that I can't do the other one well. So I can still be a kind of person who has a social life and enjoys seeing my friends, my important people, and I can still be the kind of person that trains at the gym regularly and has an exercise regime, and for 90% of my diet eats things that are probably pretty bloody decent, to be honest. But then if I want to go out and have a nice time, then I do. So that's what we're looking for, to try to find that kind of middle ground where nothing feels like it's out of reach. We can't have it. We're never allowed to have that. So we're not trying to, one, demonize anything, and two, make it something that's all we can think about, because now we're not allowed it. Everything's allowed. Have whatever you want. However, just asking ourselves, is that thing that we want moving us towards our goal, or is that helping us on this particular day? And the same thing can be different on different days. So for example, on that particular day, I wanted to go out and spend time with my boyfriends and have a really nice day, social day, just let my hair down, enjoy myself. That was important to me. So yes, the things that we did and places that we went to, stuff that I drank, it was important to me on that day. I had a really nice time. But then if you ask me the same thing, if I wanted to do the same thing again on a Wednesday, absolutely no. Because I want to train, I wanted to play the drums, I wanted to do all my work in that day, have my Spanish lesson, I wanted to feel really fresh because it was after the bank holiday weekend. I wanted to get my act together a little bit and kind of get back on my work after having a few days off. So the same thing can mean a different thing to you at a different time in the week, and that is absolutely fine. So we're not trying to like eliminate something unless it's, you know, an issue, and then maybe sometimes we might have to do that. Like, obviously, if I was drinking 6 pints a day, there would be a little degree or part of me that would need to have a little chat with someone, right? But we're not talking about those kinds of extremes. We're just talking about, you know, general life and general enjoying the things that are around us. So let's take what I try to do with my clients is, first of all, we're going to identify something that they know they need to change for them. So it isn't something I'm telling them to do, but it could be, for example, let's go with alcohol because that's what I was talking about before. Let's say they don't really overdrink, but they do have 2 glasses of wine every night with dinner, or most nights of the week with dinner, and then they have a few more extra on like a Friday and Saturday night. So over the week, they're coming in probably a tiny bit over what they're supposed to drink, but nothing too wild. Now, we already know that we shouldn't be drinking really any alcohol at all, sadly. But we also know that if we are choosing to drink alcohol, that we shouldn't be doing it every day, right? That's the kind of crack with it and the recommendations at the moment. So that's just one example. Another example could be like sitting on the sofa and only eating all the snacks. So they've had all their meals, they've had everything, but like snack time on the sofa is something that they do every night or most nights, and it can escalate a little bit. It could be someone who's doing 0 exercise unless they are with me. So sometimes that can happen. Like if I'm training someone or someone's coming to my class, that 1 hour that they're with me is great. They work really hard, but they don't have the motivation to do it on their own at any other time. So they might not even be hitting their step goals, anything. They just do that 1 hour with me and then not the rest of the week. And then obviously we know that isn't probably, it's better than doing nothing 100%, but it's probably not going to get them towards the goals that they have in the speed that they want it if they're only doing it once a week. So then maybe they know they need to increase that. Then what we do is we take that issue and we look at how we can move the needle to create small, sustainable change. So let's say, for example, first example, oh my God, how many times can I say example? We're going to take the drinking every night. So they're doing like 2 glasses of wine every night of the week and then extra on Friday and Saturday. So first and foremost, we just look at whether we can cut down maybe 4 nights off that. Maybe that would take a little bit of time because this is a kind of routine they're into. So it could be that I'm going to ask them if they would manage to be alcohol-free Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. So then they can still drink. They have their 2 glasses on a Wednesday, and they carry them the normal amount of alcohol on a Friday and Saturday. They do half bottles of wine, fairly decent wine in M&S, so like a half bottle rather than a full bottle. So they could get that on a Wednesday, so there's no open bottle. So then they'll just finish it off the next day, because don't worry, we've all been there. And then we just try to work out if that would be feasible. Maybe they replace it with a soft drink, so they still have that kind of feeling of relaxing with a nice drink in the evening. But even just by doing that, that is saving 8 glasses of wine a week, which is actually 1,400 calories over the week, roughly, if it was a 175ml glass. So if you were thinking, actually, I need to put myself in a 10% deficit, maybe you're looking to lose a bit of weight, that's already a deficit of 200 calories a day on average over the week, just by not drinking their 2 glasses of wine Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So that's already going to help if that is a goal of theirs. It may also mean that their snacking gets better because they're not reaching for those snacks in the evening. It might mean that their food choices get better the day after, for example. It may mean that it will mean their sleep pattern is better. So that's going to mean, because you don't sleep as well when you've drunk any alcohol, that's a fact, that you don't get into as deep a sleep if you have drunk any alcohol. So I'm not even talking about over drinking or getting shit-faced, just some. So it will affect your ability to reach deep sleep. That will in turn affect your hunger hormones and how they all function the next day. So that can be why sometimes people may struggle to make what they describe as sensible food choices or whatever the next day. Also, it's going to save money because this person's now not drinking every night, and it may mean that they have these sort of 4 nights a week where they didn't have any time before because they were having a wine and a dinner and sitting down and blah, blah, blah. Now they've got these 4 nights a week that maybe they feel they need to fill a little bit. So instead they maybe go for a walk with their partner or pop into the gym or go into a class or something, because now that there's no wine, the feeling of wanting to sit on the sofa and consume that wine is less, because obviously maybe it's not as exciting to have a Coke Zero or something. So then therefore they're like, actually, potentially going to the gym or going to a class is more fun than this. Excuse me. So there's that. Then let's take the person who's maybe snacking every night. So obviously the alcohol can interact with that as well. So if this sounds a bit like you, then obviously alcohol will play into that a little bit, because obviously our ability to choose what we would normally in normal life decreases the more alcohol that we drink. As we know, otherwise we wouldn't do weird shit when we're pissed. Anyway, the other things we can do in this situation if you're snacking on the sofa is to replace the snacks with lower calorie versions. So for example, popcorn's pretty low calorie. Maybe we try to put some fruit in there, or so maybe if you're like a chocolate person, maybe instead of just having a bag of buttons, maybe you put some buttons into a bowl with strawberries, for example. So then we're getting some decent micronutrients in from the strawberries, we're still getting the chocolate, and then we've kind of, I can't think of the word that I want, but now the snack is less calorie dense because there we have the strawberries filling up, which are much lower in calories than the chocolate. That's another thing you can do, is instead of taking the bag out, putting your portion into the bowl that you're going to have and taking that over to where you're going to sit and have it. Because then in order to have more, you have to physically get up, make the choice that you're going to do it, go and get it, put it in the bowl again, bring it back. So it has to be much more of a conscious decision. Whereas if you're just sitting there with a bag, you can just smash the entire thing, can't you? Not even really notice that you've done it. So using that as portion control can be really helpful. We can start to look at reasons maybe why we are going wild for that particular food and how we feel about it. So for example, when you have the first square of chocolate, the first for me, dairy milk every time. You have that first square of chocolate, you feel so happy that you might cry because it's just magnificent and it makes you feel wonderful, especially a fruit and nut. I'm going to put it out there. So it tastes great, it's wonderful. That first mouthful, it does everything that you needed it to and more. The second one still tastes pretty good, but it didn't make you cry with joy. It was just like a slight snivel. Third one, still really tasty, having a nice time, but actually not quite so exciting at all anymore. It's just putting it in now. It can be by the time we get into those later portions that actually the law of diminishing returns is not quite so joyful as that first one. And it's starting to identify where that changes for us. So that first mouthful, that first sip, that first slice of pizza, that first whatever tastes so good. Obviously, if it's a slice of pizza and that's your dinner, probably one slice of pizza isn't going to be enough. So that's not what I'm saying. But it can escalate, right? And we can get to that point where we're just eating for the sake of it, but actually we don't need to, because it isn't filling us with joy anymore. And the feeling stopped, and it doesn't even taste as good now, because now we're on number 6 of it, or number 7 of it. And we're not even mindfully doing it now. We're just doing it because it's there. And because it's a Wednesday, so we always do it on a Wednesday, or it's a Thursday, so we always do this on a Thursday. So it can be partly as well increasing that mindfulness around what we're doing and about what it's actually doing for us. Because sometimes we have to be honest, I do eat a lot of what people would consider to be very healthy food. I eat a lot of fruit and veg, a lot of all of that kind of stuff. But when I've got really want chocolate, which isn't that often to be honest, because I'm more of a crisp person. When I really want chocolate, that first mouthful is exquisite and absolutely joyful. And actually, sometimes a bit later on, I am literally just eating it because it's open. Like, especially if I'm around a friend's house, I'm like, oh, there's Whisper out. Yeah, I'll have a bit more of that, a bit more of that. But actually, I don't really care about it. Just eating because it is there and on the table. So there's that to consider as well. And then, although I did just say about replacing some of the snacks that we might need with lower calorie options, another way of looking at it can be that potentially for that person, eliminating something makes it seem even more enjoyable. So it's like, I want it even more because I can't have it. And when we get into that headspace, we're almost waiting for the day that we said we could have it. So like, let's say, for example, we're going out on a Saturday and we know that we said that we could have whatever it is, this product or this alcoholic drink or whatever on a Saturday. So then when we get to Saturday, we go absolutely buck wild and smashing everything that we restricted ourselves on all week because we wanted it so much, we didn't have any of it. So actually that can work for some people the opposite of how they intended it. So then it means that they go so wild on the weekend that they consume everything that they would have eaten the week anyway. And if that person does want to be in a calorie deficit and lose some weight, for example, then that would obviously have implications for that. So for some people, it works better to not say, I am never having that again. Once we say that or we overly restrict it, can make that person think about it more and want it more. So it might be useful for someone. It just doesn't work for everyone, by the way. Everything just works for some people individually. So that's what you'd have to work out and try. If you say you can have this whenever you want it, but you are going to think about it before you do it. So for example, I used to smoke when I was much younger. And one of the ways that I stopped was to say to myself, if you still want it in 10 minutes, you can have it. Inevitably, obviously I don't smoke now, so obviously it worked. But inevitably, 10 minutes later, I was engrossed in another task. So I was no longer thinking about how much I wanted to walk to the garage and buy rolling tobacco, actually, humiliatingly. I was no longer thinking about it because I was engrossed in something else. Or perhaps my willpower felt a little bit easier to manage that bit later because I was able to go, yeah, I don't want it. I've just been fine for the last 30 minutes. I completely forgot about it. So I'm just going to carry on. I don't really want it anyway. And that can work quite well for some people in that it isn't that you're saying I'm never going to have this again, but it's just that when I have it, I am going to really want it. And actually that doesn't really work in the context of smoking, obviously, because all of us know that we shouldn't be doing that. But I was just using it as an example. But if you have in your head, especially with food and like alcoholic drinks and stuff and calorie dense drinks, whatever it is that's like your thing, I can have it when I want it, but I just want to really want it so that I really enjoy it when I do have it rather than just having it as a routine. So for example, some people do drink like maybe a lot of soft drinks, like a lot of full sugar soft drinks during the day, or maybe they're having like 8-9 coffees or something. Now, you get to a point where, especially with caffeine, but with anything, where you are just drinking it because you are used to having it. You don't actually need it. So your body doesn't actually need 9 cups of coffee to function. It doesn't need to drink soft drinks in order to function, but you do it because you are used to it. And actually, we might say, that's cool, there's nothing wrong with drinking caffeine, but maybe we're going to have one at this time, one at this time, and one at this time. If you really want extra, you can have it, but we're just going to think about it and see if we can get into this rotation with it where we have decreased the amount that we're having. So it doesn't just work with things for weight loss, it works for everything. Okay, let's talk about exercising. So in the third example, this happens quite a lot. Like I might get someone who's coming to me, they're not really exercising, they're going to do one session with me a week. in the gym, or they're coming to a class or whatever, they're buying into Flex. So they've got these goals. I am 100% going to do a minimum of 4 times a week. I'm going to train for 45 minutes, 4 times a week in the gym. And they're not really doing anything at all at the moment, apart from maybe coming to one session with me. And the first thing I would say to them is, that sounds great, and we can plan for that, and we'll make sure that you've got everything you need in case you are able to do that. But instead of saying that that is what you're going to do every week, instead we create a more manageable baseline. So I'd be really excited if you can train twice a week for 45 minutes. And then if you hit 4 times a week, then you can be really proud of yourself, and that can be the ultimate week, like when you have the best week ever. But what we really want to do is make sure that twice a week fits in with your lifestyle, how you can manage that, and see how we get on. Same with steps. If someone's doing like 600 steps a day, they're like, right, I'm going to do 15,000. Actually, your baseline would be 6.5 minimum, which is the minimum requirement. So 6,500 steps a day would be about, the right amount for your average person to keep moving, keep their general health and mobility going. So we use brackets in that situation. So that might be 6,500 baseline to 15,000 steps a day. And so the person has to hit somewhere between that. And if they're having the best day ever, which we all do, right, sometimes, then that's fantastic. They're hitting all these workouts in this week. It's the best week. They're so motivated. Everything's great. But it also means that on another week, when all they can manage is just to hit the baseline of everything, they don't feel that they failed. So there's no wagon to fall off. We're just gradually trying to improve the baseline that person works under. So, and again, it's the same with the food stuff, the same with the alcohol. I'm not saying you can't ever drink any alcohol, you can't ever eat any snacks, you must do these workouts. That's not the case. And actually our social life is really important to us as a species. So we have to have that in our head a bit as well, of trying to find a balance. If over time we can improve the baseline of how we operate, so we eat generally healthily, we drink only when we're socialising, for example, we do 2 to 4 workouts a week, and we do these minimum steps, and we're quite cardiovascularly fit. That's our baseline. And then we want to go out for dinner or eat a bag of buttons or go to a party and, give it some willy. None of these things are going to make huge differences to our lives because they make up such a small percentage of how we live. Whereas if we are regularly doing all this stuff and eating loads of things that maybe we wish we weren't, or maybe we're drinking loads, or maybe we are not exercising at all, these things then make up such a large part of our life. So actually, if our overall percentage of how we're living is we're really happy with it, we feel really in control, and we're really pleased, we feel generally very healthy, very well, very mobile, then that's fantastic. Then if we want to smear ourselves with a takeaway and put our head under a chocolate fountain for half an hour, that's not going to make any difference to us really, because everything else is so great. Or not so great, but just great in general, just a nice, decent level in the middle whereby we have flexibility, we can carry on living. So here are some bits and pieces that I don't know if they might help, but maybe they do. So first thing I would do is to see the overall goal and see the much bigger picture of why this is happening. Now, for example, we did talk about this a bit with the alcohol before. If someone's drinking every day, what is the overall goal? So one, it's going to decrease your risk of some types of cancers if you're decreasing the amount of alcohol you're drinking. So that might be an overall goal, especially if there's family history, for example. Secondly, it might be to decrease the amount of money that we're spending on alcohol, to have more energy, to sleep better, whatever it is. Then we drill down into the smaller aspects of that. And you might think, oh, who cares about sleeping better? Some people do, especially if they don't get a lot of sleep, or especially if they're having sleep issues going through the menopause, for example, that actually decrease the amount of alcohol that they drink may be able to help with that sleep regulation as well. And for someone who's not sleeping very well at all, even just getting a bit more decent quality sleep can feel like a massive, massive difference. So it just depends where we are of our life and how we feel about things as to how much they matter to us. So we're going to try and get this overall goal in. So, for example, for me with resistance training, everyone's like, I don't know how you manage to do this. Like every week you go a minimum of 4 times. Like, how do you make yourself? The thing is, I don't actually have to make myself very often. It's one, just become part of my routine. And secondly, my back scares the living shit out of me. I have seen and regularly see much older people who do have spinal deformities, and it scares the shit out of me, and I don't mean that in an offensive way to them at all, because I think they're incredible for still carrying on with their life. But the thought of losing my ability to do things, and I can imagine how much pain they're in because I've been in pain with it before. I've had that fear of what it could be like, and so I don't want that to happen. So I will do anything within my power to make sure that doesn't happen to me. And there might not be anything I can do about it, but I need to feel that I've done everything that I can. So my motivation and my discipline on it is very high. And I have to be honest, it isn't a massive struggle for me, purely because my goal is so strong and my feeling about it is every day. And I'm reminded of it every single day with how my back feels, that for me, going isn't that tricky. So keeping that overall goal in your head, what you want, can be really important. Secondly, you drill down from that to see those smaller benefits. So maybe decreasing your snacks would make you feel more in control. Then maybe you'll feel more confident with other aspects of your fitness and health journey because you've got a grip of this particular thing that you felt was on top of you rather than the other way around. Maybe increasing your exercise. You want to feel healthy and live longer, all of that stuff, lovely. But also it might be about expanding your social circle, having a new focus, feeling more confident in your ability to do that. You might find that you're better being out of your comfort zone because you've tried something new, because you're weight training, you're getting used to not being able to do something, which happens a lot with lifting weights. You're getting used to that feeling. So now you're much more open to pushing out of your comfort zone and trying new things, whether that's in a social surrounding or hobbies or whatever it is. So all these smaller things that can actually play into it as well. We can change the way that we see things, change the way we talk about things from I have to work out now to I get to go and work out now, or I have to stop drinking to I get to stop drinking in the week because now I'm going to free up time for me to be able to do this, or free up money so I can do this. Whatever it is, we can change I have to I get to. And we want to be able to see the opportunity in what is happening. Just because we're changing our life, and it might feel a little bit more restrictive to start with because we're used to just having this kind of free reign over everything, which obviously we still do. But for some people, it can feel a little bit more restrictive, but that doesn't mean that it's always going to feel like that. Actually, the opportunity can be in having that structure. For some people is the most important thing, because then it's going to keep them at a kind of baseline that they're really happy with, especially if they're inclined to go a bit wild. So if you're a big partier or you just have a really active social life, having that baseline on the days and the times where that's not happening can make a huge difference to you in terms of, feeling in control, feeling confident with it, feeling fit and healthy, while still being able to maintain all the fun and the stuff that we normally do with our friends. Mondays are a great day. But if we only ever do those 3 to 4 and then we just jack it all in again, then maybe we need to look at how we can do things a little differently. And that is hopefully what this podcast has maybe suggested or opened your mind to, and that we don't have to be the same as all the people around us. Sometimes we can look for different ways of doing things, different ways of making steps forward to get the life that we want to have. And we don't have to explain to other people why we have certain goals. Just because no one around you exercises doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Maybe that's something you really want to happen. You want to change how you live and change how you feel and change potentially how you feel as you're an older person. Then go you. So let's just normalise not being exactly the same as the people that are around us and going for the things that we want. I'm doing a new challenge starting in June. So it's going to be 4 weeks. We're going to be talking about nutrition and fitness. If you are interested, do drop me a message on annamartinfitness.co.uk or stalk me on socials. We'll happily chat it out. But I hope this has been helpful. I've got 15 seconds till this runs out, so I'm going to go. But have a bloody wonderful day, whatever you're doing, and I'll chat to you again soon.